Isn't our dancing stomach so cute? All right, let's talk about it. Gut health is a hot topic, and for good reason. Our gut is connected to our mental health, our immune system, inflammation levels, skin health, and so much more. But one connection isn't talked about enough, the connection between gut health and our hormones. So we invited board-certified OBGYN Dr. Jessica Shepard of Sanctum Med and Wellness to share what we need to know. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am so good, mostly because I want to talk about this gut microbiome. First, tell me what that is.
Well, I heard you earlier and you're like, I'm going to learn today too.
Yeah, we are.
So the microbiome really is the environment. So it's the environment in our gut that is responsible for a lot of different functions, but it is composed of so many different bacteria. So when people usually hear bacteria, they're thinking of something bad. But the microbiome is composed of a lot of good bacteria that you actually need in order to have the gut have good motility and also immune function.
Interesting. Okay, so then tell me, what role does it play in regulating hormones, particularly estrogen, cortisol, even insulin?
Yeah, so all of these are what we say are in the environment, and the bacteria really has a key function in being able to either metabolize those hormones or even help produce them and synthesize them and get them out into the rest of the body where they're needed. So I think that when we think of the gut, we underestimate what the gut really does, but it has a good connection, like you said before, with our immune, our skin, but also connecting with the brain. It has a very big function in what it's actually sending to the brain.
Nice. Okay, you know what? You've got me listening now because I heard you say metabolism, and if I can get that to speed up at any rate, then I will do my best. So let's focus on estrogen. How does a healthy gut help regulate those levels?
So there's actually what we call an estrobolome, which is estrogen that's included with that bacteria in the gut, which is again responsible for making estrogen. And estrogen, as you know, is a very multifactorial ways throughout the body. So when you have estrogen decline, that's when you start to see that you have a decrease in the gut motility, the way it's able to mobilize, and then also the function of the gut, which is immune function, which is going to be able to fight off some of the disease and inflammation that our body has.
Okay, interesting. Now let's talk about thyroid health, because I think that's a big one as well. And a lot of people are affected by it. And so where does your gut come into play with that?
So when we think of thyroid, thyroid is really responsible for all of the metabolic functions of our bodies, like how well it does it. So when you have a decrease in thyroid hormone, that's actually going to impact how the gut is able to help with mobility and metabolizing. So everything is connected in the body. So when there's something that's wrong in one area of the body, more than likely it's going to impact another function in another part of the body. So thyroid is very important, especially for women to start checking that at the age of 40.
Okay. I'm so glad that you're laying it out for us and giving us timelines, because we take in all this information, but we're like, what do I do with this information?
Like, what do I do with this?
Exactly. So what happens when there's not healthy bacteria there in the gut?
So that is why it is important that we feed our gut with foods that are actually gut promoting and the microbiome promoting. And so there's a lot of different foods that people underestimate or don't actually focus on because it's gut helping.
Oh, okay. I hope you guys are taking notes at home. I'm going to have to watch this back myself so I can take my own notes. Now, what about cortisol and stress hormones?
Yes, stress hormones, again, is inflammation. So when you don't have the protection of what the microbiome was able to provide, that is just giving it grounds to have more inflammation and more impact. And when your cortisol is actually supposed to be elevated because it's the stress hormone, but it's supposed to go back down. So if it stays elevated and you don't really have the gut microbiome to help control that, that's when you start to see more inflammation. And that's why foods are important. I would say probably the top 3 foods that I would focus on are going to be your fiber. We should really be getting 25 grams a day. So really focusing on your whole grains and making sure that you're looking at fiber increased. Look at your labels on your food, make sure those are increased, and then also fermented food. So that's like your kimchi, that's really like your sauerkraut, and also for your miso soup. So anything that's fermented.
Ooh, miso soup.
Yes.
Okay,
is
we're getting into things I like. This is
form
good.
Of fermented foods, and that again helps the bacteria grow, the good bacteria grow.
Yes.
And then last but not least, polyphenols, foods that have like blueberries are really good with polyphenols, increasing those antioxidants, again, helping fight with the gut and what it's supposed to do.
I'm so glad that, like, again, you're laying this out. Like, okay, these are things that we can actively purchase. And this is easy. It's making it digestible for us. Yes. Right. Now, what about blood sugar hormones?
Yes, blood sugar hormones. Our body really functions around glucose and insulin. And glucose, when it's in the body through our food, which is a good thing, it's fuel. But when we're not utilizing the fuel through, again, exercising or eating the foods that really are low glycemic, low sugar, that's when we start to see elevated glucose, and the ability for insulin to modulate that or keep it at a level where it's supposed to be typically will be unregulated, and that's when you start to see increase in inflammation and increased risk of diabetes.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because you just mentioned inflammation. What are some of the signs of a hormone imbalance when it comes to your gut? What does that look like so we know what's happening?
Absolutely. So this is when bloating is not a bad thing, right? It's a response. But when it's over a long amount of time, prolonged bloating, that's when you're going to have a really issue with your gut health, but also change in stool habits, right? You really should be having a bowel movement every day. And if you're constipated or maybe missing a lot of days without a bowel movement, that's actually a problem. And then the last thing that I would say is if your health overall, if you're on a lot of antibiotics, steroid use, that really is going to disrupt the gut.
Yes.
And so watching medications and how long you're taking them, and then finding ways to restore the gut after maybe you've had a bout of antibiotics or steroid use.
So maybe like a probiotic or something like that.
Probiotic is very key, pre and probiotics. Pre sets the stage and probiotic helps maintain the stage.
Okay, I'm gonna have to lean into the prebiotics.
Yes.
I have the probiotics. This is such good information, and I love that you are giving it to us in a way that we can understand it. So if you could tell us where we can find out so much more information about you, and maybe if we want tips from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sanctum Med and Wellness is really focused on longevity and maintaining health, and we are at 5600 West Lovers Lane, and we're right here in Central Dallas. And then on Instagram, you can find me at Jessica Shepard, MD.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Jessica, for
welcome.
being here this morning. You really taught us something. I think we all learned something today.